You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There, it seems that makes it official. Welcome to the show. We certainly appreciate it. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law. Because, I don't know, you're still working to get on her good side, and she's never forgiving you for breaking your lawnmower. Go to Goodreads.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss one, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. Today we're going to be talking to him about his really interesting new book that's coming out. It's going to be the first book in history to cost $10,000. Evidently, it was much cheaper than my marriage book. So there you go. Keith Ellis joins us on the show today. He's going to be talking about his new book, some of his insights, some of his coaching, and what he does. Keith is a best-selling author and the #1 superpower coach in the world. He's reinvented the art of setting goals in his classic book that came out, The Magic Lamp, a goal setting for people who hate setting goals, which has helped more than 100,000 readers around the globe. Soon after, he was the 6th employee hired by a tiny internet startup named Web Methods and their first VP of sales. 3 years later, they went public in one of the largest software IPOs in history. He then wrote the book that changed everything: Magic Questions, How to Transform Your Life at the Speed of Thought. Some people move slower than others on thought. I've seen them on the internet, though. They could use the book, evidently. This October, Keith will publish the first $10,000 book in history, 10X Superpower, How to Make the Impossible Easy. Welcome to the show, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Delighted to be here.
Wonderful to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Probably the easiest way is 10X Superpower, 10X Superpower.com.
There you go. So we normally, we'll say, hey, you can buy it off of Amazon. Where can people pick up a copy of this book other than the .com? Is that the only place to get it?
So the book, again, the book is unusual. It's a $10,000 book. I'm not even sure Amazon would allow that to be sold.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You go to that website and there's a quiz there. And it asks you some questions to see if you're actually ready for this. Taking your life to a level that's 10 times beyond where it is now is threatening to some people. Here's the weird thing. It's actually easier than what they're doing now. But if you think about it, a life, where you've got 10 times as much money, 10 times better relationships, 10 times better health, some people will look at that and say, where do I fit in this new life? And so this isn't for everybody. And I guess the 10 grand price tag is one of the things that does that. But the point about that is most people in my business, the coaching business, will try to give you some content for free and then sell you an expensive coaching system on the back end. I'm not comfortable with that. So what I'm doing is just saying, look, the book is worth 10 grand, it's worth 10 times that. And it's guaranteed to be worth 10 times that. But you also get my coaching program for free.
Oh, wow.
And that's what brings the whole thing to life, what I call the Superpower Coaching Program. So it's a package, but I really want to emphasize the book part because all of us, I'm sure this has happened to you, we've all read books that are worth $10,000. We just didn't pay that for them, right? They changed our lives, but we didn't pay 10 grand for them. So I'm sort of saying, okay, let's try it this way.
There's probably a whole bunch of books in my Audible. I'm one of those people who buys the Audible books and then never reads any of the Audibles. And there's 500 of them in there or something.
Yep.
Yeah, and I never read them. There's probably be a million right now if I just go read those damn books. So tell us a little about yourself. How did you grow up? What got you into the fields you went into and kind of your journey through life?
Well, I got into sales, worked my way through college selling high-end technology, actually audio equipment, audio video, which was an incredibly cool place to be when you're, an 18-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I did part-time, and then I went to school full-time. And when I got out of school, the selling was such an easy gig that I stayed in it, and I love technology. So I've been in the technology world for a long time. When I got out of it, I left a company called LinkedIn, which your listeners probably know. They're part of Microsoft, and so I was knocking around in various places, startups, a lot of startups in the high tech world, and then I ended up in a company called Lynda.com, and Lynda was on the cutting edge of online training. They were a small company, and I was brought on to create a new team for them in a new market. And within 3 years, they were purchased by LinkedIn for $1.5 billion, none of which came to me, unfortunately, but such is life. And then a couple of years after that, LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft for like $25 billion. So I was this little fish that was in a bigger fish and a bigger fish. Now I understand how that whole food chain works. Each time I expected to get out because I didn't want to be part of a big company. And each time they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I hung around for a while. And then when I finally left, I said, I need to take what I've learned and turn it into a couple of books and turn it into a coaching program. And so that's what brought me to this point.
There you go. And you've written a couple books. They've done well. People can find those books, I believe, on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yep, that's true.
And so what gave you the proponent for this idea to do a $10,000 book? I suppose you don't have to sell a lot to make your money back or something.
Well, the $10,000 book wasn't the price point wasn't the first part. What was the exciting part for me was the whole 10X component. My first book was called Magic Lamp, Goal Setting for People Who Hate Setting Goals. I hated to set goals. And then something happened to me. I had one of these aha moments, and I said, wait a minute, if I think of goal setting like making my wishes come true, suddenly I'm excited about it. So I wrote that and created a framework, wrote a book about it. That was really successful. And then I did that for years. I used everything I had written in the book in my own life and achieved some really cool stuff. But it was always incremental progress. You know that feeling? I'm going to be 20%, 30% ahead of where I am now next year, and then 20, 30% beyond that. And it was great. It works. But I reached a point, and you can tell from the gray hair, I reached the point where I wanted more from life. I didn't want ordinary. I wanted extraordinary. And I didn't know how to get there. I feel bad about that. I'm a success junkie. I've read all the books and gone to all the seminars and listened to all these great trainers. I've learned so much, but I couldn't do the extraordinary. So I dove back into this whole research I'd been doing and all this library of success literature I have. And I tried to figure out what I was missing. And after a while, it kind of jumped out at me. Everybody from Socrates to Tony Robbins, everybody is building their system on a certain type of questions. And I realized that these questions are so powerful. I think of them as magic questions. I was so impressed with that type of question that I went out and trademarked the name Magic Questions, because it is really the heart and soul of what my teaching is about. So I wrote a book about that. That was successful. Then I wrote another edition. It's now Magic Questions 2.0. And the subtitle there says it all. How to transform your life at the speed of thought, because questions are the key to doing that. So then that had happened, and I'm thinking, there's still something missing. And what I figured out was what's missing is that we sell ourselves short. We focus on these what are called realistic goals. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my parents, my coaches, everybody said, be realistic. Set your goal. Yeah, you want to set an aggressive goal, but be realistic. And what was missing from that whole thing is screw realistic. Set a goal that's impossible. Set a goal that you can't accomplish. And the minute you commit to that, your brain starts figuring out how to accomplish it. I know that sounds crazy, but when it's all over, when this process is done, it's actually easier than what you're doing to make incremental progress. So that's where the book came from. And then once I did the book, I said, you know what? This book is so different. It's turning conventional wisdom on its head. Let's take it to market the same way. Let's charge 10 grand for it up front, see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. So when is the official launch date of the book?
The end of next month, October. So it's almost here.
Okay, so people can sign up on the website, get it. Is there anything you tease out, like any little help tidbits or things that you help work on for people that we can tease out?
Yeah. So the think of it this way. I was talking about incremental progress versus this impossible goal. I put a number on that, and that's where the 10x comes from. I use 10x interchangeably with impossible because a 10x leap in your life is pretty big. But it's not so big that you can't wrap your brain around it. You might think it's impossible, but at least you can think, okay, take my business, and I focus primarily on entrepreneurs because they understand this type of thinking about being responsible for your life, growing your life, that kind of thing, taking big leaps, big risks. So you wrap your brain around it and say, okay, I would like to increase my revenue by 1,000%. That's 10x, right? That's impossible, but I want to do it. I'm going to commit to it. So once you do that, your brain starts doing things. And the reason that's important, and that's the takeaway I would give your audience. If you want to do anything to really change your life, think bigger than you're thinking now. Think bigger and commit to it. Your brain will figure out how to make these things happen. That's where this magic, this superpower comes from. And part of it is about our attention, how we deal with the world around us. We're so distracted. We've got 50,000 things to do. We aren't certain what to do first. So we get into this 80-20 thing, right? I'm spending most of my time on 80% of the tasks that don't do me any good, right? How do I focus on the 20%? And the answer to that is to think bigger. Once you start thinking about impossible goals, your brain just zooms in and focuses on what can get you there. And you're not thinking about this other noise, this other crap that's surrounding you. So it really helps you focus in an age of distraction.
In the age of distraction.
There you go. That could be an album. That's my next album.
In the age of distraction. You could have Jim Morrison from the Doors do that. That'd be kind
exactly.
Of come on there and do a little vibey, weird, poetic sort of. And the frog laid in the wasteland. You know, some drug fueled whatever. We're in the 60s again. I don't know what happened there. We just kind of transported to a different point in time. So you have something that you call the 10x reality check that you mentioned on your website. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So it's a quiz. It's a simple quiz. Takes about 5 minutes. And it asks you some questions that will tell you something about yourself. And if you answer them in a certain way, then you are qualified for the next step, which is to book a discovery call with me. It's a coaching call. We actually begin a coaching program. There's no charge for it. There's no obligation, but it's where you get to figure out if you would want to work with me, and I get to figure out if I would want to work with you. And that's really important, that mutual thing, because I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want anybody to waste my time. Probably 1 in 100 people are ready to take their lives to a level that is 10 times beyond where they are now. Even though it's easier than what they're doing, probably only 1 in 100 are emotionally ready for this. So this quiz is a fun way to help them figure that out. And then if they don't pass the quiz, in other words, if they don't qualify, they automatically get subscribed to a newsletter that is called If Anything Were Possible. And it's all about the wisdom and the success stories of people who go out and accomplish the impossible every day.
There you go. It really makes a difference. What's the difference between a normal coach and what you call a superpower coach, I believe is the term you use?
Yeah. So what I do is I coach people on this ability they have to commit to something that they think is impossible and then make it happen. This is an instinct that's deep inside of us. Most of us don't even know it exists. And let me give you an example. When you're crawling around on the floor, 9 months after you were born, you start trying to walk. It's physically impossible for you to walk. It's emotionally impossible. It's psychologically impossible. You don't know how to walk, but you keep trying, and you keep trying until you start walking, right? This is built into all of us. You say, okay, well, that's a weird example. That's when you're a kid. Well, what about learning how to talk? What about learning how to read? What about learning how to write? Same thing. At some stage in your life, these things were impossible for you, and you learned them anyway. And then once you learned them, you made what I call a 10x leap, and your life changed forever. Okay, well, that's when you're a kid. None of that counts. Okay, what about when you rode a bike? Nobody forced you to do that. I remember I had 3 older brothers. They'd be riding their bike around the neighborhood. I'm on training wheels falling over, right? It's impossible for me to ride a bike. I kept trying. And now, as the saying goes, it's easy as riding a bike. I couldn't forget how to ride a bike if I wanted to, right? So I made the impossible easy. Same thing with driving a car. And that changes our life. And the example, so they're always, when I'm talking about this stuff, there are always people trying to mismatch. They're trying to say, well, that can't really be, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't apply. And then I say, okay, was there ever a time in your life when you were making 10 times less money than you are right now? And everybody goes, well, yeah, I was a paper boy, or I was this, or I was that. And now look at you. You increased your income by a factor of 10. You did this. You made it happen. At a time, it would have seemed impossible, and you made it happen. So this instinct is deeply ingrained in us. Most people don't know we're even doing it. I bring that out. In effect, I help people get out of their own way, because we've got these blinders on about what we can accomplish. And I just say, screw that. Think impossible and watch what happens.
There you go. Watch what happens. Order up the book, folks, wherever fine books are sold. What else do we need to talk about that you do? People can know more. I mean, the 10x superpower, is this a higher level than who's the guy who does all the 10xing stuff? Grant Cardone. So
Grant has a different approach. There are a couple of guys that do this, that talk about this. Grant has a book that he's really talking about a super deep kind of commitment. If you really go all in a certain way, you can get 10x. It's Grant's terrific. It's a kind of I would call it a traditional motivational piece. The guy that's really brilliant at this and insightful is a guy named Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan has a ton of material on this. I don't know Dan personally, but I've accessed a lot of his material, and he has expanded my thinking hugely along these lines. And then I've taken what I've learned from these guys, Grant and Dan and Tony Robbins and Earl Nightingale and you know Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie and all these famous names, and put all this stuff into this new system that is, I guess, a super simplified way of looking at this, so that you get rid of all this, all the kind of noise around it, and just say, I can show you how to make impossible dreams come true if you're ready.
Yeah, we like impossible dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
They're fun, especially when they come true. If they don't come true, then it kind of sucks. But that's a different story.
But well, think about that for a second. That's a great thought. Let's say you set a 10x goal, and your 10x goal it's easy. This isn't necessarily the goal people would go after, but let's say you want 10 times the revenue in your business, right? Easy to track that. And you fall short and you get 8x. Is that a bad thing?
No.
you just increased your business revenue by 800%. Is that a bad thing? So the other side of this is it's not about achieving the goal. This is one of those subtleties that I really want people to understand, which is one reason the coaching program wraps around the book, because I want to bring this to life in people's lives. When you set an impossible goal, a 10x goal, the benefit isn't achieving the goal. The benefit is growing into the person who can achieve the goal. That's where the goodness happens. And then when you do that, and there's no secret to it, strangely enough, it's all about adding capabilities. When we say something is impossible, we mean it's impossible for me. The way I am right now, I can't do this. I'm not capable. Well, what happens if you start adding capabilities? What happens if you start growing? Now, suddenly you become capable. It's like climbing a mountain, right? You get halfway up the mountain, you look around and say, wow, I didn't know this was up here. And by the time, yeah, really, right? And then you get to the top and it's like, this is absolutely amazing. Your point of view changes. So when you set an impossible goal, 10x goal, however you want to define it, the benefit to you of doing this, the benefit to you of being this audacious, is that you get to create a different you. You get to create a person who can actually achieve these things. And then the cool thing is, once you get to your goal, or wherever you decide to stop. Maybe it's not 10x, maybe it's 8x, or maybe it's 50x. Wherever you say, okay, I'm done, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, you are a different person. You have all these additional capabilities, and you can say, wait a minute, I now want a 10x goal that's 10x beyond where I am now. And now you're building on all the goodness that you've created in yourself and your life. It's the 10x, the cover of the book and in the book, I don't talk about 10x. I talk about 10 little x, an exponent. A lot of people talk about 10x in sort of a different way. I talk about it as an exponential thing. So the 10 is the x is always the exponent, and there's no limit to just 10 times 10. It can be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. You can just keep growing your whole life. There's no limit.
Really?
Yep.
Darn, I should have started earlier. No,
no, it's never too late to start. Now, I will tell you that one of the key things here is you need to understand that you're no longer a solo act if you want to create an impossible, want to achieve an impossible goal. You need to realize that there are people who can help you do this. And I teach people how to go about finding the right people to do this. I call it the power of who, finding the right who to do something. Once you understand that, once you realize that the way to increase your capabilities is to recruit a who over here who has capabilities you don't have, bring them in, and now the two of you together have capabilities that are beyond just the sum of the parts. And there's no limit to that. You can bring in one who, or you can bring in 500 who's. There's no limit to what you can accomplish once you flip that switch in your brain and realize, I need to work with others. I need to collaborate. And that's a key part of this whole 10X process.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So as we go out, give people a final pitch on where they can pick up the book and reach out to you for, excuse me, coaching.
Bless you.
I was trying to cut that off to the mute, but
yeah, there you go. So the easiest way to reach me is 10xsuperpower.com. That's where you can do the quiz. Take the quiz. There's also you can go to keithellis.com. Just it has some information and then invites you to take the quiz. But it tells you a little bit more about me. Either way works. Either way gets you to that quiz. And the quiz is really all about this discovery process where you get to decide if you're ready for this. I get to decide if I think you're ready for this. And if it's a match, then we can move forward and do some incredible things and actually help you achieve some impossible goals. I'm not hearing you, Chris.
Give us that .com one last time as we go out.
All right. .com there are two of them, 10xsuperpower.com or keithellis.com. Either one will get you to me, and we can continue the dialogue.
Awesome sauce. Thank you very much, Keith, for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Chris, I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Refer the show to your friends and family and relatives, and just tell them to do it or else. No, don't do that. Be that way. Don't do that. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.